I then joined you might know this organization called Google, with my Google colleague who started his own startup called Fabe DX.
What does that look like if you talk about enabling small businesses to use AI?
By providing context, filling out an assessment, and it provides you with solutions that directs you to the right technologies for your organizations to help you to grow, to help you to scale at a minimal cost.
I would love to find out how you are using AI.
For graphics, we use it for creating content, just having that balance. The less you practice your writing, the weaker you become.
If you're a young marketer listening to this, just step away from ChatGPT just for a couple of hours today. Hello, and welcome back to South African Tech Marketers, the podcast where I chat with folks shaping the future of digital and tech in South Africa and beyond. I'm Kirsty Lang, a senior content writer at Buffer, and today's episode is a treat for anyone fascinated by the world of enterprise marketing, tech marketing, and SaaS. I'm joined by Andrina Diedericks, a marketing leader who spent the last few years running enterprise marketing for Google Cloud and now leads marketing at a very exciting startup, Fabe DX. Andrina, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Kirsty. Such an honor to be here. Really privileged, really grateful to be featured on the podcast. I have been following for quite a while. So interesting, so many interesting stories, just understanding other people's journeys and understanding that yours is pretty similar, some similar challenges that we are experiencing. So thank you for creating this community and this, shall we call it, a place of expression.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. As a listener, you will know that I love to kind of get in with people's journeys and like where they started and how they got to where they are. Often that is really the most fascinating part of the show. So I'm really excited to get into yours. Andrina, how did you get into marketing?
Well, interesting story. So initially, post-matric, I joined a learnership called CATS program. So it's in association with the South African German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and they enable learners to receive practical work experience while working towards a qualification. So what this looked like was having 4 days of practical experience in the workplace. So you worked in different departments, from sales to quality to exports, finance.
So cool.
Yeah. Needless to say, finance was my least exciting, my least favorite. So worked in the different departments, and then 1 day a week you would go to school. I completed that after 2 years with a certificate in business administration. And when I completed, I started working towards my electrical engineering qualification. And this entailed me attending class, and during holiday periods, I would work within the company, where help was needed. And during this particular holiday period, they needed some help in marketing. I helped them out that holiday period, and there was a marketing assistant role that became available. I applied for the role. I got accepted for the role. I was really excited. And I never returned to electrical engineering, and I've been in marketing ever since. So that's my story. And then so it was an electrical manufacturing organization based in the East Rand. I then joined a company called Idemia. So they are a biometric specialization organization. So they specialize in biometrics for governments, for large organizations. And they also work with telcos, your banking cards, your SIM cards. So that's the type of solutions that they supply. I then had to build that brand. I stayed there for quite a long time, for about close to 11 years, where I built, the brand. I built the communities across Africa. So that was a very interesting experience for me. Post Idemia, I then went into digital marketing. I then started digital marketing as a consultant, so consulting to small businesses, helping them leverage SEO, email marketing, social media, content creation, understanding small businesses that don't really have the bandwidth, as well as the budgets, to get themselves out there. So I created strategies for them and helped them leverage off these new type of platforms to market their businesses. That was a really interesting experience because I was able to be creative. When budgets are small, that's when you start being creative. Post digital marketing consultant, I then joined an organization called Mimecast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but a really nice South African story, started by two South Africans while in the UK, and just witnessing that growth has been such a pleasure for anyone to experience as a South African. I took care of public sector and enterprise marketing. One of my key findings that I found at Mimecast was the overall understanding of what your CTO, your CISO is experiencing, with technology. They've got so many different vendors, so many different solutions, and they need to make a decision around that. So that was quite an interesting journey. I then joined a very, you might know this organization called Google.
You might know them. I was like, wait, it was the one that I missed in your intro. No, okay, we know Google.
Yeah, Google Cloud. So main objective was to accelerate the cloud adoption within the region. Google Cloud being one of the, I think, 3 big hyperscalers globally, and they were setting up the first Google Cloud region in Africa. So there was quite a lot of background work on ramping to that launch. The technical launch went live 1 year prior. So it was engaging with customers, partners, prospects, as well as your developers, just keeping those audiences pretty engaged. And that's how I moved. Yeah, that's how I moved to Google. Post Google, I then joined with my Google colleague, who started his own startup called Fabe DX, and it is an AI platform that enables small businesses to utilize AI for growth.
Okay, I love that. You've led me perfectly into your next question because I really want to get into Fabe DX. So do you say Fabe or do you say Fabe DX every time?
I say Fabe DX, yeah.
Okay.
Fabe DX,
yeah. Branding is very important. It's very important. We'll stick to Fabe DX. Okay, so what does that actually mean? What does that look like if you talk about enabling small businesses to use AI?
Well, looking where we are, so the idea behind the company was, so my colleague was a professional services consultant. So these consultants are called in by big enterprise customers throughout, the world. He worked in the US, in Europe, in Africa. And they would have a complete IT team. They'd have a CTO, they'd have an IT manager, project manager. And Google would, invoice them consulting fees. And he saw an opportunity, but what's happening to the small businesses, they don't have an IT team. So that was the idea that was born. That's how Fabe DX was born. So Fabe DX is a platform where you can solve your most challenging pain points in a really short space of time by providing context, filling out an assessment, and it provides you with solutions that directs you to the right technologies for your organizations to help you to grow, to help you to scale at a minimal cost. Yeah, so it's almost like having a tech consultant in your team. Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool. Like that's fascinating because my husband works in IT, and it's one of the initially he was going to kind of start his own IT business. Now he's kind of moved back into in-house, but it's so fascinating how small businesses it's one of the costs that they're just not willing to take on, and they can't take on because it's expensive to have an IT team, right? I know we're getting way off on marketing now, but this is something that I've dealt with a lot over the past few months. And, you think, and a lot of small businesses, it's not even a thing that they think about because, I can do it. I can set up a Gmail, but there's so much more that goes into that. So I love that you're making that so much more accessible for small businesses. That's really, really cool.
100%. And, you have to have an overall strategy. You have to understand where you're going to. And when you do it ad hoc without a strategy, it does become pretty costly. So it's helping them just navigate that technology. At the end of the day, your small business as well, they focus on operations. They are not focused on a complete strategy. Same as marketing, they just have to make sure that the organization is working. So hence, that's why the thought behind this particular platform, I think, would really land well in the South African market.
That's really cool. So where in the kind of life cycle is Fabe DX right now? Are you just ahead of launch?
We're just ahead of launch. We've got an MVP that is working. So we are busy working on partnerships with all the different players in the ecosystem. And we are testing and rolling it out, those tiny iterations. We're going through those. And so we're looking to launch pretty soon within the next couple of months. So look out for that.
How are you marketing this? I know I kind of was going to get to how you market. I mean, all of your career, you've worked in really, really technical industries. And it's very difficult to help someone understand things like biometrics or like the cloud. How do you explain Google Cloud, right? This is a difficult concept to market. How do you even approach that as a marketer?
Okay, looking at my experience, right, I've always been B2B, always been corporate. It's pretty, I would say, pretty standard. It's localization, it's understanding who your customer is. But I think with Fabe DX, with a startup, what I'm finding really interesting is like you almost kind of scrap the playbook. And you're like, okay, we're going to do this differently. And I'm finding it so exciting, like creating videos that are more TikTok feel. Like we cannot go and compete with the corporates. Firstly, we don't have the resources. So you have to be creative in that sense. So that's quite interesting. And I find partnerships are really good lead for startups. And I think, all marketers working for startups should leverage off those particular startups. Looking for communities that are similar to yours, same objectives, and that can deliver impact. That was one of my biggest learnings with the startup community. And you'd be so surprised to find how many other organizations are more than happy to partner with you when it comes to working for a startup. So, I think also understanding your customer, for a tech solution, yes, it does get quite complex. And your customer they are pretty, the landscape is pretty complex. So it's helping them navigate that tech landscape. There's so many different solutions, As a small business owner, if you just think about invoicing software, there is a plethora of them, So with the platform, that is what we're helping to simplify, just simplifying and helping them navigate that tech landscape. And I think for enterprise customers as well, especially in cybersecurity, I find there's so many new vendors coming up. At the same time, you have a number of threats that are basically new threats coming out every single week. But it's helping them simplify that and understanding your customer. I found that when you look at your customer, you have to figure out like what's keeping this person up at night. Those particular pain points. What's keeping them up at night? And once you understand what those particular pain points are, you have to help them envision a world where the problem is solved. It's almost taking them on a journey and helping them understand and experience a world, helping them imagine a world where their problem is solved. And then you direct them to the solution. Oftentimes we would find that, it's as human beings, once you've got a problem, we tend to focus on that problem. We think about it, we whine about it, we worry about it, instead of looking at the different types of solutions. So it's just helping them see the possibilities of what is available.
I love the way that you have framed that. That is so universal of marketing. Just what keeps them up at night, help them imagine a world where that problem does not exist, and then provide the solution. Because I find that so many, and especially, I would imagine that with Fabe DX, you were dealing with what you are selling is security, right? So the problems that part of what you're selling is security, IT security. Please correct me if I'm talking absolute nonsense. But like the threats associated with that is actually terrifying. So, that is quite a negative framing to like have to go in. And that was something that I mean, on a much, much smaller scale, was battling with and helping my husband with the marketing. I'm like, how do I sell this to people? This is really uncomfortable to talk about.
100%. It's so, and another aspect of your storytelling for your tech audience, I think of all the personas, when you look at your CISO, I think that's where I have the most empathy for. Because, just listening to some of the experiences of having a ransomware attack, where they've had a data breach, so it's really a traumatic experience for them. So just having empathy for them and helping them prevent that scenario, I think also really helps you to, provide those tech personas with solutions.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I'm sorry. I'm going in deep in the weeds. With my imagery understanding happy. Of IT.
Very happy.
Okay. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about your time at Google. I said this before we hopped on. I know Google has like mythical status as a company to work for. What was it like? How did you land there? I'd love it if you could just share a peek behind the curtain for us.
So my experience at Google, I'm very fortunate, very grateful. It was on my bucket list. So the opportunity I picked up online, and they've got a really good hiring process. And you just have to prepare really, really well for that. There's so many resources out there. There's YouTube channels. There's quite a lot of resources if you are looking to get hired by Google. The overall experience, I think, was really a highlight of my career. I've met so many different people, all from different cultures, and worked with some of the smartest minds in the business, which I think is such a privilege. One of the highlights was working on the Saudi region launch, which was pretty interesting. I took care of the technical tracks. So the Google audience is pretty technical, so you have to create content that resonates with them. That was a pretty interesting experience, but overall culture at Google is what people say it is. It's lots of fun, and the food is pretty good as well. Lots of benefits.
That was like my next question.
Yeah, the food's good. Lots of benefits. Offices are really cool. But I think lots of opportunities. So I found the work really exciting, and there's so many different projects. You almost have to set a few boundaries for yourself. Like, I cannot take on this project as much as I want to. You have to restrain yourself a bit. But really exciting work, exciting projects, and such a opportunity and privilege to work for Google. Yeah.
I love that you kind of explain that you have to like hold yourself back from projects. That's often what I feel like with my work at BioMetrics. Is like, just everything is so cool. I'm like, I want to do
so fun, so much fun. Yeah. Stuff.
How great to land in a job that makes you that excited. I think that's quite a rare thing. And how cool to have experienced that in your career. Okay, so the contract at Google came to an end, and then you moved on to Fabe DX. What did that process look like? Was it right afterwards that you got offered the role?
It was, yeah. It was around about the same time, so I was very fortunate for that. Yeah.
So, Andrina, I know obviously a big lever that Fabe DX is pulling is AI. I would love to find out how you are using AI in your role as a marketer at a startup. I think that must be quite a unique opportunity.
Personally, I'm not sure how much other marketers are using AI, but I use it extensively. I find, especially with a startup, you've got quite a small team, you've got quite a small budget, and I'm able to leverage it off immensely. So I use it daily. I don't even think I could go a day without it. I mean, like, I use it for, for graphics. We use it for creating content, writing blogs. There's so many different aspects to it. And what I'm also finding quite interesting is the different uses. So GenAI is your generative AI. So it's more for your creative side. So it's for your images, it's for your writing. Just think it of as a different part. So it's for the creative side of your brain. And you've also got your prescriptive AI, you've got your different types of AI. So there's also, AI that helps you with your forecasting. So there's different aspects that you would use. But generally, I use GenAI for quite a lot of different aspects because I'm in marketing. And I think that's what most marketers are leveraging off. I hope that answered the question.
That's a brilliant answer. I think the trick is like figuring out, I had this conversation on another show the other day, it's figuring out how to leverage it without kind of like losing your creative spark and like losing the magic that you inject in. But if you're clever about how you do it, which I would absolutely imagine that you are, Andrina, that it can be an absolute game changer, especially, I mean, how many folks do you have on your team right now?
The team's really small. Yeah. So, I mean, we have to utilize AI because of the lack of resources that we have right now. But you were saying earlier,
about the spark and kind of how you put yourself back into the work.
Yeah. You have to, keep that originality. And also, I think you need to work through, you have to give your brain some time to rest. To also, because you could be losing some brain capability, There's also, the other side of AI that's also quite a bit scary. So, it's always, just having that balance. And also as a person, you want to keep your ability to create the magic, So, and also the less you practice your writing, the weaker you become. So it's really important that you keep that spark going, keep practicing, keep trying. And I think it's more of our human experience. We always choose convenience. And it takes discipline to not utilize convenience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think, I don't know, I'm really grateful that I have AI now and that I'm able to leverage it in like clever ways, but also recognize what you just said now is giving your brain time to rest, like giving yourself space from just think for me. Because I feel often when I'm leveraging AI, I kind of get into like the flow with it. And then I almost feel like the muscle, like the creative muscle just gets like a little bit weaker. It's a really cool way that you frame that. And I'm just very grateful that I started my career having to do everything myself. And I've built those systems and I've built those like pathways in my brain and I know how to do that. And I think it's such a power to be able to recognize when, those pathways are getting a little bit dingy and you need to kind of, do some stuff yourself. I think that's a really important distinction.
And it was really painful when you started, right? Writing your first blog was painful. Creating your own campaign. It was painful in the beginning. But it's just, allowing your brain to go through that pain, to see it through to the end. It's really important that you do that. It's really important that you have the discipline to, and you know what? This is what I wanted to say, is that we've all got the human experience and nothing can replace that. And I think that's where the empathy for your customer comes in, because we can identify with those emotions, that fear that they felt once they've had a data breach, once they've had a ransomware attack, I don't think technology can really resonate with those feelings, but as human beings, it's our experience that sets us apart. Another thing also is with partnerships. Partnerships is basically managing relationships. You've got, you've got to have that onboarding period, building a bit of trust. You've also got your conflict resolution. So it cannot be replaced by technology. But managing those partnerships is basically managing relationships, which I think only human beings can do.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many things. So if you're a young marketer listening to this, just step away from ChatGPT just for a couple of hours today. Touch some grass in your brain. I feel like Jonesy will know what that means. Okay, that was brilliant. I'm so glad that I asked. I'm so glad that I asked that question. Okay, I feel like we could keep talking forever, Andrina, but final question. What is really exciting for you right now in marketing? Are there any kind of tools or trends or shifts that you're loving exploring, or just, being at a startup? What is getting you fired up?
I think what's getting me fired up is almost to put the B2B corporate playbook aside and to practice new tactics, new ways of doing things, looking at partnerships, looking at, how you are delivering your video, looking at just reaching your audience on a more personal level, as a human being, as opposed to going up with a heavy marketing message. That's quite refreshing for me because as a consumer myself, I'm faced with a plethora of messages every day, whether it be on email, whether it be on video, if it's ads being served at me. And I think everyone's experiencing that, but it's coming back to just speaking to your customer as a human being and understand, that they are on these platforms, they are viewing content, but they don't always want a really strong marketing message. So that's what I'm having quite a lot of fun with, as well as with partnerships. I'm really enjoying leveraging and fostering some partnerships and experiencing growth that way.
I love that. Andrina, thank you so much. I am going to be following Fabe DX very closely. And TikTok. You mentioned TikTok. I should have asked you about that. Are you guys going to be making TikToks?
We're looking at it. So yeah, watch this space.
Yay. Okay, I'm so excited. Listen, if you do start doing that, let's have a chat because me and TikTok are best friends. I love
great.
TikTok.
I will definitely reach out.
No, really. I think I don't know. There's so much fun to be had, especially with businesses that you would expect to be quite buttoned up. So I think subverting that persona or perception is just really, really fun. So I'm excited to see what you do there.
Yeah.
Apart from the TikTok to come, where can folks find you if they want to follow along with your work?
I am most active on LinkedIn. It is a B2B platform and I found it a really interesting place. I really enjoy being on LinkedIn. I used to post pretty often, but not as much now. I don't have as much time. But yeah, if you're looking for me, that's the place you can find me.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for your time. That is everything that I wanted to get to today. I should also say that South African Tech Marketers is more than a podcast. It is a growing community of marketers across the country, and we would love to have you join us. We have a really fun, vibrant Slack that is just growing, and I'm meeting so many cool people in there. If you would like to join, just check out the link in the bio. I'm going to invite Andrina as well, so hopefully she will be there too. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Kirsty.